And we're back, people. That's right. The movie nerd and the TV nerd reunited at long last for the next Talkin TV Variety Hour. Chris, it's good to have you back. And as always, as per the existence of this show, we've got a lot to talk about in the world of TV. And for what feels like the first time in forever, nothing Marvel related. Are you excited?
Dude, it feels like forever somehow. I mean, it's only been like a week, maybe 8 days tops, but it really does feel like forever. So yeah, I'm so excited to get into this tonight, man. Let's do this damn thing.
Look, all I know is that time is a flat circle, so it just doesn't have any effect on me. So you guys know the drill. Let's get to it. Talkin TV Variety Hour. Oh man, good to have you back, dude. It really has been forever. It's funny, like, I guess that just shows you how much we do on this channel, that like a week goes by and it feels like it's been a month, you know?
Dude, yes, it really does. I mean, it's just and the best thing about it is it's the community that keeps us going and pushing to keep that going, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we get into tonight's topics, I mean, like, talk to us first. Like, tell us about your vacation. You know, did you do anything fun? Like, because remind me, this is the first time you went on a vacation and kind of left the state, since before the pandemic, right?
Yeah, since October of 2019, about 2 months into the start of our podcast. Went also to California, to LA then. No, I went to San Diego. It was really cool. I hung out with Johnny. You guys know Johnny Manna, first ever guest on the first ever episode of the podcast. Of course, with many other guest appearances, Marriage Story, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. More recently, the Avatar and my birthday stream. So you guys have seen It Chapter 2. You guys have seen Johnny before, and it was really cool seeing Johnny out of his element. I'm happy for him. He's doing some real crazy lawyer stuff out there, and I got to get a little taste of it. I'll tell you one story. So Johnny, he is working for a pretty sizable law firm, and so lawyers get invited to events and galas and things like that. So his supervisor at his job texted us on Sunday and was like, "Hey, I know you have a friend out. It's totally cool to bring him. We're doing a intern event. So if he wanted to come, I mean, he could totally come. It's going to be about an hour north of San Diego in a city called Carlsbad. And it's going to be like for this art gallery opening. We're going to be doing like a tour." And I said, "Hey, look, I'll go if you want to go." I mean, we were kind of just going to chill and spend the last day really doing nothing. So we got something to do now. And he's like, "Sure, let's take a drive up the coast." And that's always fun when you're in California, like obviously beautiful coastlines. So we get there and Johnny was like, "These are normally casual, so like we probably don't need to dress up or anything." And I was like, "Sure, like I brought some nice clothes just in case, like, in case we went out one night or something." He's like, "Nah, it's totally cool." So Johnny's wearing like the t-shirt from the night before and some board shorts. I'm wearing some khaki pants and like a Dungeons and Dragons t-shirt. And we show up to this gala where there are millionaires pledging thousands of dollars to restore this cherished theater in Carlsbad. I mean, we got free Napa Valley wine, which is like $500 a bottle, which was cool. But like we were so obviously underdressed and out of place. and like they either
Johnny, I knew that was gonna happen. I knew that was gonna happen.
Yeah. Either they thought we were so rich that we just could give that less of a care, or we were just like clearly stumbled in off the street and somehow passed the security check. Like it was a very interesting 2 hours. Like people were coming over to us and talking about like their stock portfolios and the investments they're working on, and we're just like, we're getting ice cream after this.
I mean, look, it's California, so I feel like either one of those, I feel like those are like the only two people that live in California, right? Either super rich people that are so rich that they can pass off as casual and not care, or people who kind of just got invited to the wrong thing and kind of just showed up. Like, let's be honest here. Those are really the only two types of people that live in California. But it's good to hear that Johnny is still Johnny, because that's a total, for anybody who's like not as familiar with Johnny as we are here on the podcast, that is an absolutely Johnny move, man. But as much fun as I'm sure you did have, it's great to have you back. It's great to have you back on the podcast. It was lonely, man. Like here's the thing, right? I will say I spared you from that Space Jam 2 podcast, which I feel like I did everyone a favor by solo podcasting on that, but I'll admit it did feel a little bit less fun, like not being able to have you there to roast that shit with me, because oh man, like Oh man, the less said about that movie, the better. But man, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Like I said, we got a lot to catch up on. Literally, like this is how much TV we've got coming in the second half of the year. This just a preface with this. We had not one but two TV drops today with both the Ted Lasso season 2 premiere and the Masters of the Universe Revelation, the animated Masters of the Universe Kevin Smith show, part 1, the first 5 episodes that just dropped on Netflix. We got both of those today. And Chris, first and foremost, obviously we don't want to spoil anything because famously, our old and Ted Lasso season 2 podcast will be up on Monday famously. But did you watch, just let me know before you can, because I haven't gotten to watch it yet. Did you watch the Ted Lasso season 2 premiere?
Not yet. No, I'm saving it to be right before the podcast, so it's super fresh.
Okay, got it. I wasn't sure if you were going to do that because I know you're a much bigger fan of that show than I am. I've been looking forward to it, but you know my thoughts on the first season. So
it's probably one of my most anticipated shows of the year. I mean, I might just watch it tonight, but
it's probably one of your most anticipated things of the year. Forget show versus movie, just one of your most anticipated things. Like, be honest, what movie were you looking forward to more than Ted Lasso season 2? Let's be completely honest here. Just give it the caliber of movies we've gotten so far this year.
None.
Exactly.
None.
Exactly.
Absolutely none.
Like I don't want to rant and rave about the quality of movie of 2021, especially since it's just 2020 leftovers. But I'm like, ye gods, like it has not been good. It has not been good to say the least. Like I'm sorry, when I'm giving praise to not to foreshadow my thoughts, but when I'm giving praise to an M. Night Shyamalan movie, that's a problem. That is a problem overall. But yeah, you want to get into this?
What time is there but now, Dom?
Well, there was never any other time but now. But, I mean, you wanted to talk about this a lot, obviously. We talked about this show a couple weeks ago. We were kind of doing, let's call it pilot season, where we were talking about, back when Loki was first starting, right? And I know we said we weren't going to do any Marvel on this show, but, like, let's face it, it's the internet. Marvel always finds its way into some conversation. But we were talking about Kevin Can Fuck Himself, and we were talking about Dave. What's it called? I've been trying to keep up with those two shows as much as I possibly can, but we both fell in love with this one show from this one platform that honestly is starting to rise to like the level of HBO as far as just the overall amount of content that is like for the most part universally like quality caliber overall. Like I really haven't been able to say that about a streaming service since HBO before kind of the Max takeover and drag down as far as that goes. I've actually started to expand around with the other Max content, but we started watching Physical. And we love the pilot. Absolutely fantastic pilot. Probably the best pilot that I've seen so far for new shows that debuted this year. And we're now, 6, 7, 8 episodes in now for this 10-episode first season. And, I mean, I definitely know that you've been keeping up with me a lot better than I have because what I do is I miss a couple weeks, and then I'll watch, like, 3 episodes in a row one weekend. But, like, dude, this show is so good. It's so good. It's so engrossing. It's everything that we want from TV right now that we're just not getting just in general because kind of the Marvel sphere has now infected our beloved TV in addition to movies. Like, talk to me, man. You were the one who wanted to talk about this show. Like, what have you thought about the next couple of episodes, the next 6, 8, 7 episodes that have happened since that premiere way back when?
Yeah, first of all, I want to shout out Matt from Basic Entertainment, always supporting in the chat. Thanks for hanging tonight, brother, of course, as usual. I think it's so brilliant, so different. It's a very interesting type of period piece. I love all the different themes it tackles. There's that political undertone. There's the undertone of sort of dealing with an eating disorder. And now in this past episode, we're dealing with different types of traumas. And it's just also at the same time, somehow not so heavy that you can't breathe under the weight of it all. And that's probably the part of it that is like the most brilliant because it also doesn't dilute what it's trying to say either. But it's bingeable at the same time while really making you think and, question, hey, like, is everyone around me really okay? Like, it's very well done. Like, it's subtle, but most times I feel when shows take this route, they're subtle to a fault where they almost defeat or step on the toes of the message they're trying to get across. But this one's loud and clear. And I don't know, like, it's just Apple TV Plus, their curation team, whoever they have receiving scripts and then greenlighting scripts. I hope they keep doing what they're doing. Really, it's kind of the main reason I wanted to talk about it, and we can get into specifics. But bounce off what I just said. Like, do you feel sort of like the same way about the whole vibe of the show as a whole, or where's your head been at over the past few weeks?
Look, all I'm going to say is that when I first saw the trailer for the show, I thought, oh, trying to capitalize off the peak of Glow, because back at the time I wasn't as in on Apple TV, so like I didn't really know what they were trying to go for as far as their overall brand what's it called, brand message, let's call it, their brand identity. That's the word I'm looking for. Their brand identity, because they were still so new at the time. Like, even in 2020, they were only like, what, a year old? They only launched in like 2019, right? So I had no idea. Like, Amazon was starting to develop their identity after a couple of years of floundering around. Hulu was starting to develop its identity. Disney Plus, we knew what that was going to be right at the gate. We had HBO Max. Netflix obviously had been reigning supreme for a couple of years, and so Apple was kind of, for lack of a better word, pardon my pun, this new kid on the block. And I wasn't really sure what to... Yeah, that was for you. That was for you. But, what's it called? I wasn't really sure what to make of it. Like, I saw all of these different crazy titles. I'm like, what is this show? See, with Jason Momoa, and they're doing an M. Night Shyamalan show. I'm like, okay, I had no idea. And then it obviously, like, the morning show was going to make waves, but I'm like, the morning show was going to make waves no matter what network it was going to be on. It just so happened that Apple put down the dollar because they needed a flagship show, because nothing sells your network more than a flagship show that's going to be guaranteed, like, at least 5 or 6 Emmy nominations, which is exactly what the morning show's first season did. And then I finally started watching For All Mankind, and I'm like, oh, shit. So this is where peak TV is going. And every single TV show that I've seen since, even Ted Lasso, which I'll admit, I know I wasn't the biggest fan of, but even Ted Lasso, it's hitting that level of peak TV that we had that brief window of from like the late 2000s into the first half of the 2010s, before kind of the streaming wars really took off and we started getting like flooded with content. And so once I realized that that was going to be kind of the new home of the peak TV that I'd really been searching for, that had kind of gone away over the last couple of years, I was like, I'm hooked. I'm locked in. And this show is just another terrific example of that, because yes, on the surface, it looks like just another Glow, but underneath, it is so much more. It is so raw. It is so unapologetically, brutally honest. It is so... The balancing act that it has to do between kind of the veneer that it generates, as far as kind of the facade that just women and just characters in general just felt like they had to generate in the 80s, because that's just what the time period called for, versus her inner monologue, which is so loud and so strong and so fucking hilarious that, like, it could be a show in and of itself. It's everything that I've been wanting. And again, it's doing the Glow thing also, where it's essentially, for lack of a better word, it's sure it's probably going to be marketed as a comedy, quote unquote, but it's really not. Not at all. And it's doing that thing that Glow and this other HBO Max show that I'm watching, Hacks, do fantastically, which is that they're essentially telling a drama, but as a 10-episode, half-hour comedy. And it's fucking awesome, because I love that. And that's also something, I love not to toot my own horn, but that point actually is going to play into the next thing that we're going to talk about, as far as what Succession is doing with kind of taking that formula and flipping it on its head, because that, to me, is kind of the change-up in television that I feel like has been needed so long, because we have such these strict ideas of this. Okay, this is drama. Drama's hour long. Drama is hour long. Comedy is half hour long. We're gonna hit these sticks in drama, and we're gonna hit these sticks in comedy. And I love that these shows are coming out and continuing to kind of break up not the monotony, but kind of those kind of reinforced values that we've gotten so used to. And it's doing it in all the best ways. Like I love it.
Yeah, I agree with a lot. I agree with all that, man. I think so. Just to like add to that, because I really can't really disagree with any of that. Really, it's excuse me. It's so well acted. It's so well casted. It's so well like just dressed. Like it feels like some hippies who are trying to do like the right thing and make it out and live lives past it, but like they still are obviously stuck in their college mentalities. And it's just the characterizations mixed with like the mise en scène and just the way it's shot, it feels like a true kind of like, because like the thing is, to me it feels like one of my favorite period pieces is Love and Mercy, the Beach Boy movie, Brian Wilson, because they really like the filmmaking of that film is so excellent. It just really feels like it's 1970 and 1980 between the two storylines, and it's just sometimes when you do a period piece, it looks cheap. It looks like you're just trying to trick the audience into believing it. If you could just do enough, then it works. Kind of like Jupiter's Legacy being like the lowest bar of achieving what a period piece can be, and then this is like the highest tier, and it's like on this tiny little streaming service that like no one has, and it's so unfortunate that this, because I think it should be like in everyone's top 10 this year, but like I don't know whose top 10 it'll be in aside from us and like maybe Elliot from Movie Files, who actually also has Apple TV Plus. Like I just don't know. It's killing me, because that's my biggest gripe with this show is the fact that it's so good and no one's watching it.
Yeah,
That's my biggest gripe.
And in a weird way, I feel like you just described right there what was the problem and why Prestige TV kind of went away, because Prestige TV...
Yes, I would say it's Prestige TV.
Absolutely. It's absolutely Prestige TV, but even more so than
But
that...
But cut from the modern cloth where it's like the dramedy, right? The comedy and the drama mixed in one.
Exactly, but kind of what I'm trying to get at is that it's exactly what happened with the Breaking Bads and the Mad Men's, where the problem is once those became event viewing TV, right? The problem is then every show tried to do that. And obviously not every show is going to be able to do what Breaking Bad and Mad Men did. And like Netflix tried to do that, but then Netflix's obviously algorithm and model just went just completely different from what the peak TV model was going to do. And that's why you see them kind of moving away from that model now and going much more so towards, you know, the CW and like the cooking show and the more kind of, let's call it comfort food route, because that's what people watch, because that's what people like watching, and that's what gets eyeballs. And that's all that Netflix is concerned with, right? It's disheartening to people like us, but from a business sense, it makes sense. But that's the tough sell of Prestige TV is, again, because Prestige TV is largely based around reality, and because there's so much inundation of reality now because of technology and social media, Prestige TV really doesn't have a place except for in these kind of niche pockets. And the one kind of saving grace that I'll throw its way is that it does have, again, the niche factor on its side, which is that it can get those followers like us that don't like watching those mainstream shows that everyone watches because they're not good. They're only made because people watch them. And it can eventually grow with that cult status and hopefully after time start to get some eyeballs, you know, as far as that goes. Because look, we know Apple is not at all concerned about their streaming service because Apple is worth how many billions of dollars as far as that goes. They literally like, they make enough money in an hour to pay for all of their shows at once, with the amount of AirPod sales that they have globally. Like, they're fine. They don't care about how this streaming service does, which, again, in a weird way, is kind of the best thing for it. Because, again, like you said, if it gives the Greenlight team the creative freedom to continue to greenlight these types of shows, it's probably the first time ever that I've championed a fucking evil conglomerate that basically has control over everyone. Because, oh man, if it means that we continue to get good shows like this, I'm in, you know?
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree. I would highly recommend you go look up the Apple Gizmodo TV show controversy.
The what? Wait, Gizmodo?
Yeah, Gizmodo. It's like a tech blog.
Okay.
And they do like, I guess, hard-hitting tech uncovering journalism, and so they really bashed like Apple on something like in 2006, and someone wrote a show about how like Apple pretty much crushed their site and they're no longer around. And so Apple TV Plus for a second was actually thinking of picking up the script and greenlighting it, and they canceled whoever was they canceled the show and fired whoever was the head of talent buying there. But I guess Apple hasn't really taking too much of a step back.
Right. Well,
the shows are still good.
Well, I mean, it shows that they're petty when it comes to that. It's good to see the corporations could be just as petty as people. But also, I mean, isn't that like exactly what just happened with like the one guy from what was it? Oh my God, what's the site? I can't remember the name of it, but that one guy from the site that like wrote like a fair review that wasn't just like praising Marvel for Loki, and then he got like fired or like
IGN, right?
Yeah, IGN. Yeah.
I heard about that.
Like kind of exactly the same thing as that.
Yeah, I guess I bring it up because it's like, you know, tread lightly when you worship these big tech conglomerates, but you know, but they brought us Physical and Ted Lasso.
They brought us
so I'm
Physical
okay with
and
it.
Ted Lasso and For All Mankind. So for now, and trust
True.
me, if once we get to this slate of upcoming
and
shows,
the morning show,
and the morning show, and once we get, by the way, I finally watched that pilot, dude. I know I texted you. I don't know if you saw that, but dude, one of the best, possibly the best pilot of the last 5 years that I've seen. I think there's only one.
It's so
I
good.
think there's only one other pilot that comes close to it. But I'm gonna talk about like why I don't necessarily know if this pilot, this pilot for this show that we're gonna talk about, was as good as the morning show. But yeah, unless you have anything else to say about Physical, like you want to move on to Succession?
All I have to say about it is go and watch it if you haven't. Apple
Please
TV
do.
Plus is totally worth it. And of course, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button on this video, and leave a comment so you can help out our channel and join in the conversation. That's really what we want you to do, is join in on the conversation. So yeah, speaking of the conversation, Dom, what's the next topic?
Yes, Succession. So I know it's funny because I was texting you before earlier today because I'm like, yes, we're back. I'm like, you're going to talk about the Succession trailer, right? And you were like, And you were like, that's really more of a you thing. You like, I didn't even watch the trailer. I'm like, wait, what? And you're like, I didn't watch the show. And then that reminded me, I'm like, oh, that's right, you did it. But if anything, here's the thing. That's not a bad thing. Because I will say, that just makes me even more excited. Because now you're going to have exactly kind of what I was prepping for back in 2019. And then that got ripped away from me like so many other things from the pandemic. Because, dude, I cannot tell you how elated I was when the season 3 trailer dropped, right? That was the big thing, right? When production started getting back, midway through 2020, when everyone was still confused as far as that goes, I'm like, okay, I'm just looking through the news articles. I'm like, okay, Succession, season 3, come on. When are we getting it? And they announced it that they were starting in December of 2020, and they announced that they finished production a couple of months ago, and we finally got the trailer. And, oh man, it was every bit as delectable, as juicy, as satisfying, as hilarious, as, like, spellbinding. Like, I don't know how many positive adjectives I can throw this show's way before I start to sound like a complete and total fool, but let me just tell you that possibly the greatest pain, and there was a lot of pain that just everyone in general had during the pandemic, both physically, mentally, emotionally, just all around, right? And it sucked knowing that all the blockbusters that we were going to get in 2020 that we're now getting in 2021, that maybe in hindsight, it's probably may have been better. We may have been spared in 2020 from all those blockbusters because, ye gods, so far, they've been 2 for 28 so far of all the blockbusters that have come out this year that were supposed to come out last year. But probably the thing that hurt the most as far as shows that I was looking forward to that were supposed to be released in 2020 and they got ripped away from us, I realized I'm like, oh shit, we're not going to get Succession season 3 in 2020. And the shitty thing was that I just caught up with season 2 in 2019. Like, a week after the season 2 finale aired back in, like, October of 2019, and everyone was ranting and raving about it. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll watch this fucking show and see what it's all about. Because my friend made me watch the pilot. I'm like, okay, this pilot's really good. It's not amazing, but it's really, really good. I'm like, the acting is good all around. I think the most impressive thing to me about it was the fact that it was very obviously an Adam McKay directed thing. Like, I'm not going to say I have a problem with Adam McKay the way that a couple other people on the internet do, but I will say his style is starting to become very, very obvious and not necessarily in a way that kind of lends itself to the material, in a way that kind of is starting to become a little bit distracting. But I will say that he knows how to handle ensemble casts, and he knows how to balance out the comedy with the drama. And I think the most impressive thing to me about this show when I started watching it is the fact that I'm like, holy shit, they're all character actors. They're all that guys that you've seen in a million other things, but you don't necessarily know their names. Like, you got Brian Cox and Jeremy Strong and Matthew McFadden and Nicholas Braun, who the only thing that I'd seen him in was as the fucking the sister's boyfriend from Nina Dobrev's boyfriend from The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and baby Culkin, Macaulay Culkin's younger brother, Kieran Culkin, and Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Alan Ruck. And I'm like, and I didn't even know what the show was going to be about. Like, I'd only seen the first trailer. I'm like, what is the show going to even be about? And, like, there's the basic elevator pitch, right, as far as in order to get people into the show who aren't already watching it, because I don't know if Succession was, like, the most watched drama when it came out. I think a couple other shows may have topped it, but, like, I definitely think that as far as, like, kind of prestige TV that, like, hits the medium and is talked about by, like, a fair majority of people, and, like, it's right on the cusp of, like, blowing up to the point where everyone is talking about it, this is that show, without a shadow of a doubt. And what's it called? And just as far as the trailer for season 3 goes, so, like, I guess I won't say anything about what happened in season 2 because I know you have to watch it still, but
yeah, don't spoil anything. But
no, I won't.
You go ahead about what you think the trailer says, spoiler free. But I do want to also know after that, as someone who clearly loves the first 2 seasons, where like what bar was set? Like, what do they have to achieve to please you in season 3?
So I'll put it this way. So I'll actually give you, I'll do you one better. I'll give you my breakdown as far as the first 2 seasons go, and then I'll tell you what how that set up my expectations are for season 3.
Yeah, no spoilers though, because we're going to be covering this week to week on our show, just so you guys know, the variety show. And so I want our chat who hasn't caught up to catch up with me, so then we can all have a big conversation together, you know?
Absolutely. So the biggest thing for me was when I watched the first season was I'm like, oh no, is this gonna fall into that train of everyone is hyping this up, but this has some really obvious cliches that I've seen before that kind of have started to drag down certain things in my mind. Like, the acting was good, the humor was there, but it was like, you know what I mean? It was that type of humor where it's like, oh, I've seen this before. This is like that type of humor, you know? Like, it was very whip smart, it was very sarcastic, but like to the point where I'm like, am I gonna like enjoy watching any of these characters, or am I just here to watch an insult fest? Which I'm like, if that's the case, that's cool and all. The problem is that only really works for like a couple episodes. I don't know if that's enough to sustain the entire season. And then by the end of the first season finale, I'll say this, has that one moment. You know what I'm talking about. That type of cliffhanger, spellbinding, jaw drop to the floor, being like, what the fuck just happened? And I'm like, I gotta tune in for season 2. And season 2, again, I thought about this a lot. It still wasn't my number 1 from 2019. I originally ranked it at number 5, if I remember correctly. I think I still like Barry season 2 and Watchmen more, but as far as just pure drama, season 2 may have been the best, one of the best bits of television that we got in 2019. It was insane because all of what season 2 did is it was the complete opposite of the sophomore slump. It took every micro problem that I have with season 1. Like I said, the second half of season 1 is significantly better than the first half. The first half is really where those problems start to rear their head. But season 2 took all of those micro problems that I had from season 1 and threw them out the window. It upped the comedy. It made the characters 1,000 times more relatable. It upped the tension and like kind of the Shakespearean elements in ways that like actually kind of started to make it unsettling. The guest cameos were great. Like there were some moments where I'm like, I didn't think it was possible for me to laugh harder than the first season, but there's this one moment in the 4th episode where I'm in a conference room where I'm dying laughing, and it's a moment that is like so fucking petty and so stupid. You're like, these are grown men doing this shit, but it's so hilarious and so engrossing. And the second season, it's a hard beat to overcome the first season finale, but the second season finale ends with one of those kind of gotcha, twisting the knife in the back moments that you know, and you're like, okay, so going into season 3, it's gonna be war. It's going to be all-out war. The sides have been set. The lines have been drawn. We know what the sides are. The rest of the characters are going to have to pick and choose what side they're on. And the cameos that they're going to have, bro. Hope Davis, Sanaa Lathan, Adrian Brody, and Alexander Skarsgård have all signed up for guest spots. And yeah.
Damn.
Oh, yeah. That is a stacked palette right there. If that doesn't tell you what kind of show...
When is this airing again?
No release date yet. So the first 2 seasons...
That's a tricky beast.
In August of their respective seasons, but because the filming got delayed because of COVID, the only thing they said in the trailer was it's happening in the fall, which if I had to guess, it's probably not going to be in August, September. I'd say October at the latest, so that they can air all of their episodes before the end of the year, because they are trying to go, because the problem, season 2 won all the Emmys. Season 2 won the Best Drama Award. It won Best Actor for Jeremy Strong. I believe it won writing and directing, but I have to check that as well. And it got a shit ton of other nominations. It completely occupied the supporting actor drama territory. Brian Cox also got the double nomination. There's this one moment that he has. Like, I don't want to say that this is Brian Cox's best performance, because Brian Cox has been in the industry just so long, and he's had so many different memorable parts in so many other movies. He's in freaking Super Troopers, for Christ's sake. He was in Super Troopers the same year that he was in X-Men 2. That should tell you just how versatile and how much shit Brian Cox has been in. 1 year before he's in Troy. But there's an argument to be made that this might be the best performance that he's ever given, just based on this one moment that he does in season 2. Like, I don't know if I'm hyped up enough, just how excited I am for the rest of the show. But the only thing that I'll leave it off on, as far as as far as the season 3 trailer goes, and kind of just how satisfying it is to finally have it back, because I realize I'm like, oh, thank God. If TV is gonna kind of solve the problem that movies... Oh, wait, I remember what my other point was now. So, remember I was talking about with Physical, and Physical is essentially a drama, but in the format of the comedy. Succession is almost the opposite, but in the best way possible, where, for lack of a better term, it could just be a dark comedy. Because it's Jesse Armstrong as the main showrunner, who was one of the writers, one of the creators of In the Loop, and he, and he wrote, In the Thick of It, that's what I meant, The Thick of It, and he wrote In the Loop, and then he wrote the spin-off show, Veep, that was an HBO comedy mainstay for the last couple of years, where that started to like draw the lines between black comedy. And so he knows what he's doing as far as balancing out the drama of the comedy, but it's one of those things where if you're not paying attention, you'll think, oh, this is just a stupid comedy about all these people arguing nonstop. And then it'll give you that one dramatic moment where you're like, oh, fuck. And it just reinforces that element. It is Shakespeare at its best. It is real world allegory at its best. It is like insult humor at its best. It is just all of the notes that like I feel like we've been missing from our comedies and our dramas and our TV. This show hits, and I cannot urge people enough. If you haven't watched the first 2 seasons, go and freaking watch them. You will be beyond satisfied, because when season 3 comes out, oh man, I hope it's gangbusters, and I hope to God it doesn't get swallowed up by the vast amount of other streaming shit that's going on, because man, I'm pumped, man. And when that, like, we've had like 15 different trailers in the last week, because this is what they do. They finally announced also the name of the next Jordan Peele movie, which I think is hilarious, but just the title in and of itself. But yeah, like this is my most anticipated thing for the rest of the year.
Well, it sure seems like that, man. I wish I could
Bro.
speak to it more. You know, I just haven't really gotten around to watching it yet. But obviously, guys, we're going to be covering it on the show. That's something you can guarantee. Like, everyone's going to be talking about Marvel. We're going to be doing some pretty awesome stuff on this Variety Hour coming up. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
the last thing the last thing I'll say is this show is the reason why shows like Succession are the reason why we started this show right now, the Talkin TV Variety Hour. So if you're into like this type of stuff, a little bit of the off the beaten path, because everything's just so superhero sickness, homogenized, and you know, hive mind these days, then you're in the right place. So please subscribe, hit the like button, give this video a comment, and yeah. Dom, what's our last topic? The big topic for the evening.
Topic for the night. So I just got to check right now. I think that for the most part, with the exception of the Marvel shows that we know obviously have been announced, and with The Boys season 3, I think that every other show we have is not superhero related. So just to break it down, some stuff. So today, obviously, we had the debut of 2 shows. Like I said at the top of the show, we have the Ted Lasso season 2 premiere, as well as the dropping of the Masters of the Universe Revelation show that Kevin Smith executive produced, entirely animated. It's got like an anime style. I'm really excited to start watching that. Those 2 both drop respectively on Apple TV Plus and Netflix today. Ted Lasso will obviously be airing its next I think, I don't remember if it's 10 or they got a 12 episode count this season, but they will be airing their next couple episodes on Fridays in the next couple weeks. And starting in August, we've got a shit ton of stuff. So pay close attention, people. So we've got a show called Mr. Corman, which is an A24 production starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, coming out on Friday, August 6th, the same day as The Suicide Squad drops. So that's going to be a big weekend. The following Monday, August 9th, we've got Reservation Dogs, which is a new upcoming Taika Waititi, Jermaine Clement produced show, the creators of What We Do in the Shadows. What's it called? Which is a show basically about like 4 orphans. And knowing Taika, it's going to be fantastic. And that Wednesday, August 11th, we've got the debut of What If, which, even though that's Marvel and MCU, it looks like the most interesting thing that they've done. You know, obviously Loki was kind of the first exception, but it looks like we're finally going to be getting, something that's a little different from them as far as expanding into the animated front. The following week, August 18th, one day after my 24th birthday, we have the debut of the Jonathan Levine-directed Hulu miniseries 9 Perfect Strangers, which stars Nicole Kidman, Melissa McCarthy, and Bobby Cannavale, along with a host of other people, about 9 strangers who show up at a wellness resort in which sinister things ensue. That looks really interesting. Then, we skip ahead to September. Thursday, September 2nd, we have the premiere of, I know, something that Chris has been looking forward to a lot, What We Do in the Shadows, season 3. I'm almost, I have to finish Hacks first, but I'm going to get started on season 2 soon. That way I can get ready for this premiere, because that one, I already know. If it's anything like that first season, it's going to be an absolute joy to watch, because I'll admit, What We Do in the Shadows as an idea for a TV show was not something that I was necessarily excited for, because I thought the movie was so good that I'm like, how could you possibly recapture the magic? And I'll admit, it worried me after that pilot episode, but that first season very much grew on me, especially after they did the big crossover with the movie.
Yeah, that was amazing. Episode 7, The Trial. But I'm just going to say I like season 2 more, and I'll leave it there.
Really? Okay, interesting. And then the following week, that Tuesday, we've got something that I have been waiting for a very long time. Ever since 2018. It's been 3 years. It's been 3 years since we got the last one, but probably the last Ryan Murphy production that I will still actually pay attention to, aside from the American, because like I said, I'm not going to lie, I stopped watching American Horror Story. I think season 7 was my last one. He's done like a ton of other shows, between originally on FX and now on Netflix now. And Ryan Murphy is definitely somebody who's very hit or miss in my mind, but the things he was able to accomplish, first with The People vs. OJ back in 2016, which is still a game-changing show, and with its sequel series, The Assassination of Gianni Versace, you know, the anthological American crime story. The third season of that, Impeachment American Crime Story, featuring around the impeachment of Bill Clinton, that stars Sarah Paulson, Beanie Feldstein as Monica Lewinsky, Clive Owen as Bill Clinton, Edie Falco as Hillary Clinton. Impeachment American Crime Story premieres that following Tuesday, September 7th. I'm very excited for that. I cannot wait. And then this middle week of September is going to be gangbusters, Chris, because we're bookending it with two shows that I know for a fact are going to be up your alley. Monday, the 13th of September, we finally, after years wavering in development hell, have the debut of the long-awaited adaptation of Brian K. Vaughan's Y: The Last Man. We're finally getting it. Chris, can you just give like a couple words to hype this up? Because I know this is something you've been waiting for a very long time.
Well, I do want to say, while I am excited, I also, you know, people need to understand that this is a very coveted comic, and so they better do the right thing with it. Like, I'm going to be... You know, I normally don't pull punches, but if there was ever a time where I'm going to be extra, particularly on point with my analysis and criticism, it's going to have to be for this show, just because I really want it to succeed, because I love the comic so much. And so, yeah, like, I'm excited, but I'm also equally as nervous, because there's very much so many opportunities for them to drop the ball at something this ambitious. And if you guys have read the comic, you know ambitious might even be an understatement. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but at the same time, it's like, they better bring it. So.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I did not read the comic, so I'll admit I'm mostly just going into this because I'm like, yeah, it's Brian K. Vaughan. He contributed to some of the best of Lost while it was still, like, really, really great as far as that goes. What's it called? But, yeah. The only other thing that I will ask you, Chris, is, so do you think that this show is going to be able to justify... Do you think that this show was going to be able to justify, like, multiple seasons, or do you see this more as being like a mini series?
It can go for multiple seasons. I mean, it's ran for like 60 issues already, but I just think, let's not put too much pressure on that. Let's just make sure that we stay true to the source material, make a good product, and time will tell. I want them to focus on the now, because this is such a delicate source material rich property. There's a lot of tiny little, you know, odds and ends they're going to have to make sure to tie away. It's one of those very what's the word? Densely rich in minutia type properties. So they're going to have to really, I just hope that they focused on the now. And if they get the green light for the season 2, then repeat the same process, because that means it would have been good. That's right. How you kind of have to handle this type of piece.
Right, especially since this isn't the only Brian K. Vaughan adaptation that we're getting, obviously. Not for this year, but, like, we know for a fact that either sometime, most likely next year, Amazon is putting out, the adaptation of Paper Girls, too, which I know Ali Wong was recently cast in, and a couple of other people. So, yeah, we're getting...
Yeah, that should be really cool, too. I read Paper Girls, and I had a lot of fun with that series. I didn't quite get as far into it as I did with Brian K. Vaughan, but I still hit about 20 issues, and it was definitely an enjoyable read.
Yeah, definitely. So, now that Friday, September 17th, we've got the debut of The Morning Show, Season 2. I still have to finish Season 1, but if it's anything like that pilot episode, I am more than excited. I am well more than excited. And then the following Friday, September 24th, this is interesting because this is probably Apple's kind of debut into, like, the Game of Thrones territory, which I'm interested they're going for that this time soon, where they're doing the show called Foundation, which I did some research on, but it seems like a very heavy, another big sci-fi property. What's it called? Starring a couple of actors that I recognize, Lee Pace and Jared Harris. But do you know anything about this property, Chris? Foundation?
No. What do you know about it? I've never even heard of it.
I gotta Google it, unfortunately, because I'll admit it's one of those shows that, like, I read about it and then I forget about it instantly. But it's based off a book series. I know that much. By Isaac Asimov. And let me see, because of course I gotta fucking find everything. Where are you? Hang on. Foundation show. Where are you? Almost there. Okay, so Foundation, produced by David S. Goyer. Okay, that's cool. What's it called? Foundation chronicles the 1,000-year saga of the Foundation. Helpful. A band of exiles who discover that the only way to save the Galactic Empire from destruction is to defy it. It's going to star Jared Harris, Lee Pace, Terrence Mann, a bunch of other guys that I don't recognize. So it looks like it's essentially going to be something like Battlestar Galactica meets The Expanse almost as far as that goes. But with Apple's budget, like that could be something really good and really interesting as far as that goes. So, what's it called? Yeah, so the only other thing that I really have to throw out as far as release dates go, because we don't have that many more, we've got The Shrink Next Door coming on Friday, November 12th, which is a mini-series that stars Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell. That sounds really interesting. It's based off, actually, it's probably the first thing ever that I've seen that's based off a podcast series, which is basically where Paul Rudd is the psychiatrist interrogating Will Smith, but basically is like secretly this con artist who cons his way, into Will Ferrell, who cons his way into Will Ferrell's life under the pretense of helping him, but really just kind of taking advantage of him and like manipulating him and stealing his money. That could be really interesting. And then, of course, we have the big one to mark the end of the year. We finally got the debut date of The Witcher Season 2. It's been long awaited. We've been, We've been waiting for this for a very long time. It looks like the trailer that I thought was dope. I'm very much looking forward to see if they can not capture the magic of the first one, because obviously we've talked about how problematic the first one is. But it's going to be very interesting to see kind of if they can, let's say, solve the problems of Season 1. You think they're going to be able to do it?
I don't think they have to. Season 1 was such a big hit. People didn't care. But
Yeah,
I think for us film critics, I would like them to, because I think there's so much potential in the characters and the casting and the world building, especially with the amount of money Netflix threw at it. I mean, it was meant to be, I guess, the Game of Thrones replacement. But I think the real audience out there who doesn't just want the spectacle of that type of storytelling, who wants the plot to be rich and interesting and engrossing, realized quickly that it was pretty thinly veiled. And so the problem is Netflix doesn't release their numbers, so we'll never quite know how big of a fail or a hit this was. But we were told it was one of their bigger flagship properties, and the budget was, I think, doubled for season 2. So same showrunner, makes me nervous. Hopefully she's grown a little bit. At the end of the day, though, I think they don't have to fix it because it's Netflix and they're a different beast. But I really hope they do, because it was fun. Some episodes are better than others, but it kind of wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I think a lot of people felt that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you as far as that goes. Like I said, it was an interesting, it was a good debut season, but room for improvement definitely. But as far as kind of promising for promising for the future of the show, I can't see it, especially since Netflix never lets a show last longer than 4 seasons. So that automatically doesn't bode well, because this for me was the type of show that seemed like it would lend itself to like that 6-7 season structure, and it's very obvious to me that Netflix is just trying to rush it through like they do with everything. And those are everything that has release dates. We still have a couple of other shows that do not have release dates yet. Obviously, I mentioned Succession. We still have the Wheel of Time show for Amazon, which is another, that one's really weird because that's another like gigantic adaptation of like this really big fantasy novel series. It's so big apparently that they've already greenlit season 2, but we don't even have a trailer yet for the first season, so I don't know what Amazon's doing with that show. Visions, the next animated Star Wars property on Disney Plus. The Boys season 3, Hawkeye and Miss Marvel, which are the last 2 Marvel properties that have yet to come out after What If. Book of Boba Fett, obviously. His Dark Materials, the final season, which I cannot fucking wait for that. Industry season 2, and if possible, I can't believe it, but again, since it was a big smash hit, obviously when it dropped on Netflix at the beginning of the year, we might get Cobra Kai season 4 before the end of the year. I don't know if they're actually going to do that or if they're going to wait until January, but first of all, Chris, we got to talk about this for a second. Cobra Kai got an Emmy for Best Comedy Series. Like, what universe are we living in right now where that happens?
Kind of feels like a slight to me, but what's your take on that?
Wait, hold on. How does it feel like a slight?
It's clearly not a comedy. It's like a teen drama.
Oh, you're in that train, dude. That show is obviously a comedy. That show is not taking itself seriously at all.
No, I know, and that's why I like it. But it's also not a comedy. It's a teen drama that knows how ridiculous it is.
Okay, I get
it. That to me, I feel like it's, I don't know. I guess maybe not a slight, because I don't really understand how the Emmys does their voting or comes up with the categorization of things. But to me, I've never looked at it and thought it never set out to me to be funny for the sake of being funny. Right? Like they're taking it very seriously. It's just so funny because they are taking all of that seriously.
Right. Okay. I get it now. And okay. So as far as that goes, you're right. It's funny because I actually had this conversation with AJ last week, kind of about how what's it called? How like kind of the Emmys have been really good about keeping up with like kind of modern day pop culture trends in a way that the Oscars really haven't. But I do find that is a good point that you bring up, where like kind of the traditional television categories, let's call it, which is, you know, simply drama, comedy, miniseries, and TV film, have not really expanded that much in order to kind of incorporate the vast different types of dramas, where you're right, like something like Glow gets nominated for comedy because it's a half, or like Physical gets nominated for comedy because it's half-hour format, but that's it. Like, that's the only thing that has it described as a comedy. Same thing with Cobra Kai. Like, Cobra Kai is beyond silly as far as how seriously it takes it, and that, to me, is kind of what qualifies it as a comedy, but, like, you're right. Like, that show is not a comedy, per se. So, I see where you're coming from, what's it called? And I do agree with you as far as that goes. But, man, like, I'm happy he got nominated because, like, for the show, you know what it is? It's such a fulfillment of, like, kind of, like, because the show always was the underdog, right? It was from the moment that it started on YouTube Premium. It was on YouTube Premium, which nobody's gonna watch that. People, like, the whole beauty of YouTube is that you get it for free. Who the fuck is gonna pay for shit? And it blew up way bigger than anyone thought it was gonna be. It had like this really interesting cult moment. It did a complete spin on the Karate Kid story that no one thought it was gonna have. It ends up having this huge moment. Gets greenlit for the second season. YouTube cancels it. I don't even know if their service is still around. Netflix picks it up. It goes on. The minute that it goes on Netflix, it becomes a gigantic smash hit, because of the cult build-up that it follows. So to me, this is kind of like the fulfillment that it got. You know, this is kind of like the what's it called? Like the metal that gets draped around its shoulders for like doing the work and putting in the work and getting responding. You know, because I mean, we complain all the time about these award ceremonies not awarding the right shows. And so for my money, even though it's awards fraud, but that's only because they haven't really updated the awards categories yet, I'm down with it because I'm like, let's fucking go. You know.
Fair enough. I get it. I'm glad it got a nomination because I think it deserves it. And I think it shows that, like, hey, you know, we don't always have to have high art getting the nominations, right? It can just be something fun that people enjoy. So I do see a lot of positives with it. I just think it's a bit of mislabeling and misbranding is all.
Right. Yeah, I absolutely go. Well, to put it this way, like, The Mandalorian is nominated in the drama category. The Mandalorian is not a fucking drama. The Mandalorian is a sci-fi space opera. Like, but it's nominated for drama because, again, they're trying to fit all the different crazy, changing television modes into kind of like, you know, these square boxes that have existed as part of, you know, as staples of television for decades. As far as that goes, the only thing I think that makes me really sad about the upcoming TV that we have coming out for the rest of the year, because a lot of it is promising, is we're not getting Barry season 2 before the end of the year. Barry.
That hurts.
It does hurt, and it hurts with all my heart. I'm like, okay, so I know what they're doing. They're doing the exact same thing that they did with the last 2 years with Succession and Barry, where they're having Succession be kind of the late summer, beginning of fall show, and then they're having Barry be the spring comedy show. Which, as far as their strategy goes, I'm with it, but it still sucks now that by the time Barry season 2 comes out, it'll have been 3 years. Sorry, by the time Barry season 3 comes out, it'll have been 3 years since Barry season 2, which is wild to think about. You know,
crazy.
Because this isn't a show that like Atlanta or Westworld, where we have 2 years in between each season, so we get some time to like kind of cool off from the show, and then the next seasons come back. And in Atlanta's case, they'll like remind you, oh, how good the show is. And then in Westworld's case, it just constantly reminds you, oh yeah, this show. Maybe it shouldn't get more seasons, you know, as far as that goes. Because we're getting 2 seasons of Atlanta next year. We're getting season 3 in the spring, and we're getting season 4 in the late summer, early fall. So we're getting that. We're getting Better Call Saul's final season next year. Ozark is finally ending sometime this year or next year, thank God. Stranger Things season 4. A couple other shows that I wanted to shout out that may be coming out sometime in the near future. Anatomy of a Scandal, Station 11, Tokyo Vice, Pachinko, Severance, Paper Girls, The Peripheral, Shogun, and Noah Hawley's upcoming Alien show. No idea when that's happening, but just the fact that the guy who created Fargo and Legion is doing an Alien show, I am with that. What's it called? Chris, you got any other shows that you know of that are coming up that you want to give a shout out real quick?
Nothing you didn't name.
The only other thing that I'll ask, have you heard about the show Search Party?
No, why?
Oh, it's just a couple people bringing it up, and it seems like a show that I feel like would be up both of our alleys. It was a show that TBS was doing, and TBS canceled it, and then HBO Max picked it up. I don't know what it's about, but I've heard that it could be like something really interesting, so I wanted to check it out. It's like relatively short, so I just wanted to throw it your way as far as that goes. So, without further ado, man, it's good to be back.
It is. I missed this.
To be back. So, people, We'll be back on Monday. We'll be bringing TV back to the podcast for at least a little bit with our Ted Lasso Season 2 premiere, as well as we will be talking about the new M. Night Shyamalan movie, Old. Oh, man. Not to spoil anything, but let's just say I have been waiting to talk about this movie for a very long time, because considering that the last M. Night Shyamalan movie was Glass, like, oh, man, this is just one of those movies that you just cannot wait to talk about, even if it's for the wrong reason. So that will be up on Monday. I've got my Shyamalan filmography ranked coming out on Wednesday, and then we will be back next Friday for the next episode of the Talkin TV podcast. Chris, of course, it's great to have you back on. Where can the good people find you?
Yeah, they can find me anywhere that matters at Christian Ivanko. Ivanko spelled Evanko. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, as well as if you go to any of those places and hit the link on my bio, I have music on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Music, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, all those places. So check out all that I do. I'd really appreciate to see you there, and I hope you enjoy it. Dom, what about you, man?
What's it called? You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Movie Nerd Reviews, posting pics of my vacation, my haircuts, my cars, at least on my personal page. But you can really find me where you can find the rest of our podcast, Facebook and Instagram at Talkin TV Podcast, where I post every single day, twice a day. I also forgot to mention, new up Talkin Thrones is back, people. We took a week off, but we are back. Professor Pat and I hit our Season 2 premiere this past Sunday with Season 2, Episode 1, The North Remembers. We will be back this coming Sunday for Season 2, Episode 2, The Night Lands. I'm very excited to keep going with this. It's going to be so much fun, and you guys can follow that, all of that, and more by following us on our social medias, clicking the subscribe button below, clicking the like button, clicking the bell next to it. That way you guys get notified every time we put up new content, and leaving a comment in the comments section below. It just helps us overall. It helps us that we can continue to give you guys, you, the people, the content that it is that you deserve. Chris, what's that funny little statistic that it was that you were rattling off before? I know it's been a while. What is it, like something like 62% of the views or something like that? You do better than me anyways.
No, it's 4% of your YouTube viewership is not subscribed to your channel, and we'd really like to change that. So there's not many of you in that regard, but we really hope that the 4% of you who, for some reason, don't subscribe but still come back every day, please subscribe, join the community.
Absolutely. What's it called? It's been great having you guys back on. As always, we hope that you guys check out all this TV that we work with. We give you guys a lot of TV, and we're better than TV Guide. We're better than commercials as far as that goes, you know? And I work for AT&T now, so I should know as far as, different commercials shoving different products in your face. So with that being said, people, 12 seasons in a short film, and watch more fucking movies, and in this case, TV. We'll see you guys next time.